The recycled air of the Navy's combat systems training facility tasted of ozone and regret. For Maggie, at 154 centimeters and 41 kilos, it tasted mostly of blood. On the sprawling mats of the dojo, the fear was a palpable thing, a pressure that squeezed her lungs with every shouted command. Overhead, the humming glow panels cast a sterile, unblinking light on the rows of recruits. To the uninitiated, they might have looked like trainees, but Maggie knew better. They were entertainment for the sadistic drill instructors. Maggie's opponent was a man named Hiroo Onoda, a recruit whose shoulders looked as wide as she was tall. He was whispered to be a product of the Imperial Advanced Eugenics Programs, Unit 731. He took every opportunity to remind her of this fact. She was a natural-born human from a backwater colony. The only advanced tech she had access to was the old book scroll she'd used to join the Navy. Drill Instructor Ishii's command echoed off the high walls of the hangar-sized room. The sound was sharp, full of scorn, and directed entirely at Maggie. Onoda moved with the confidence of a predator. He advanced slowly, his boots thudding softly on the synthetic mat, an earth-shaking rhythm to Maggie's nervous heartbeat. She crouched low, trying to make herself a smaller target. She'd spent weeks watching him, cataloguing his movements, his tells.
What are you waiting for, Recruit Leon? A written invitation? Or are you still operating on atmospheric pressure? Get a move on.
Maggie feinted left, trying to bait him into overextending, to expose a weakness. Onoda didn't react. He simply closed the distance. Her hands, calloused and scraped from endless exercises, were tiny against his chest. She grabbed his wrist, feeling the rigid bone and thick sinew beneath his uniform. The plan was to use his own momentum against him, a basic principle of martial arts. Onoda was a wall, not a wave. He simply braced himself, and her momentum died, her attack neutralized before it had even begun. He moved with a speed that defied his mass, a blur of motion that ended with her on the mat, her back slamming against the unforgiving surface. A grunt of pain escaped her lips, swallowed by the roar of the air handlers. She was on her feet a second later, heart hammering.
Again. And this time, Recruit, try to look like you're actually alive.
Maggie was a blur of motion herself, a flurry of strikes and blocks, all of them bouncing off Onoda's augmented frame. She was faster, she had more stamina, but he had more of everything else. His punches were like wrecking balls, forcing her to constantly dodge. She knew she couldn't win in a straight fight. She had to outsmart him, outmaneuver him. She ducked under a wide, sweeping punch and lunged, wrapping her arms around Onoda's waist. Her plan was to use a variation of an ancient jiu-jitsu grapple, a low-profile takedown that would put him off balance. But his massive muscles held firm, his weight solid and unyielding. He simply leaned, and Maggie felt her feet sliding out from under her, her grip failing, the sheer, crushing weight of him overpowering her. She fell again and again and again.
Get up! Izzy's voice commanded.
Maggie rose, her muscles burning, her chest heaving. Sweat dripped from her chin, stinging her eyes. She felt the eyes of every other recruit on her, the silent, cruel judgment in their stares. She was the one who was always failing, the one who was always being singled out, the one who was always getting put back in her place. This was Ishii's mentorship. It wasn't a guiding hand, but a boot on her neck. It was a pressure that would either crush her or forge her into something harder than what she was. Maggie was the project, and Ishii was the forge, the flames, and the hammer all in one.
You're using the wrong methods, Recruit. Martial arts are for the strong, not for little girls. Your techniques are useless. You rely on your speed, your guile. But what happens when you're facing a superior opponent who is not only stronger but smarter than you? You get broken. Do you understand?
Yes, Drill Instructor.
No, you don't. You don't understand that your weakness isn't your size. It's your mind. You think like a prey animal, a mouse. You think about survival. I need you to be a mouse with big bloody teeth. I need you to think about what constitutes victory. Eventually, we all must face overwhelming odds. Victory matters more than our individual survival.
Maggie stumbled back to her feet, her hands shaking, her breath ragged. She looked at Onoda, at his confident face. He was the embodiment of what she was up against, the sheer physical impossibility of winning.
Again, Leon.
Ishii commanded, and Maggie's heart sank. This time, when Onoda advanced, Maggie didn't try to outmaneuver him. She didn't try to use his momentum against him. She simply stood her ground. The fighting techniques her brothers taught her, so disparaged by Ishii, had a principle she had overlooked. There are no rules in a fight. It wasn't about winning. It was not about losing. It was about endurance. It was about taking a blow and still being in the fight. The last idiot standing was the winner. So time to be an idiot. Onoda launched his signature wide punch, the one she had dodged away from 100 times. He expected her to dodge. This time she didn't. She met it head-on, her left arm shooting up to absorb the blow. The impact sent a shockwave up her arm, a bone-deep ache. Her arm was numb, but it wasn't broken. She had taken his best shot. The bruise would be horrific. Before he could recover from the unexpected move, a look of surprise crossed his face as Maggie moved towards him. Her movements were deliberate, precise. She had been observing Onoda for weeks and she knew his rhythms, his movements. She knew that he relied on his strength and that his reliance on that strength made him predictable. He knew she couldn't hurt him, so he left himself open to her pathetic attacks. She didn't aim for his head or his torso. Maggie aimed for his balls. A low kick, a quick snap, right into the crotch. It wasn't a killing blow, not even a disabling one, but it hurt. It was enough to make him stumble, to break his rhythm, to make him think. Even with a cup on, he must have felt that one.
Hey, that's cheating.
A flicker of uncertainty flickered across his face. It was the moment Maggie had been waiting for. The moment she had been working toward for the last 2 weeks. Maybe that was what Ishii had been trying to find in Maggie. The truth Ishii had tried to teach her, in her own cruel way, was that moment when even a little mouse realizes it can bite the cat back. She moved not with speed, but with economy of motion. A direct, brutal punch to his balls. Another, and another, and another. A staccato rhythm of pain. She sucked up hit after hit, just for the chance to plant a hit in his balls. She wasn't going to beat him. She was trying to prove a point to the big jughead. Yes, she was going to lose, but he wasn't going to win. She took another hit that left her seeing double and dizzy, but the prize was an uppercut to his boys.
Konchikusho, kono yaro, chikusho.
Onoda reeled backward. His strength and his training failed him in the face of this unexpected assault. He was not chasing her around the mat any longer. He flinched when she moved. His left arm was held low to protect his manhood. There was no fight left in him, even if he wasn't injured.
Recruit Leon, finish what you started.
With that, Maggie knew what she had to do.
Come on, Onoda. Are you going to fight me, Hiroo?
Fuzakeru na Leon.
And Onoda walked off the mat. He wasn't knocked out. She hadn't broken his bones, but he was a beaten man. The look on his face, the utter disbelief, disgust, was more of a victory than any amount of punches or kicks. Maggie grinned around her bloody mouthguard. Onoda was going to have a date with an ice pack after this, Maggie thought. Maggie was wrong. Well, almost wrong. Onoda stopped at the rubbish bin, pulled the lid off, and began to puke. Several corpsmen rushed to lay him down on the deck. The female paramedic gave Maggie a thumbs up before she stuck an ice pack in Onoda's abused crotch. Maggie looked at Ishii, whose face was a mask of cold satisfaction. She had done it. She had found a way to win, not by being stronger or faster, but by being a different kind of weapon, the kind that, when used properly, could be the most dangerous kind of all. Drill Instructor Ishii said. Maggie, tired, sore and exhilarated, simply nodded, a predatory gleam in her eyes. The forge was hot and she was far from finished. Maggie was wrong again. Her eyes rolled back in her head, darkness closed around her and the mat jumped up to smack her in her aching face.